The sun rose on August 25, 79 AD, but it barely broke through the thick clouds of ash still falling like dirty snow. Where colorful villas, busy markets, and laughing children once filled the air with life, now only eerie silence remained. Pompeii had been home to around 11,000 people, wealthy merchants, shopkeepers, slaves, and families enjoying the Mediterranean sun. The previous day, around noon on August 24th, Vesuvius had exploded with terrifying force. A massive column of superheated gas, ash, and rock shot 20 miles into the sky. By night, the first wave of pumice stones rained down, piling up to rooftops. Then came the deadly pyroclastic surges, blasts of toxic gas, and ash moving faster than a chariot at full speed. By dawn the next day, the city was buried under 4 to 6 meters, 13 to 20 feet, of volcanic material. Roofs had collapsed under the weight, streets were gone. Only the tops of a few taller buildings poked out like broken teeth from a gray desert. The air smelled of sulfur and burnt wood. No birds sang, no dogs barked. The Bay of Naples, once sparkling blue, now looked like a dirty pond under falling ash. It was as if the gods had wiped Pompeii off the map in a single night. If you could stand in the middle of what used to be Via della Bandanzetta, main shopping street, you would see total devastation. The famous stone-paved roads, once crowded with merchants selling fresh fish, olives, wine, and colorful fabrics from across the empire, were now invisible. A thick layer of gray ash and fist-sized pumice stones covered everything. Footprints from the few desperate survivors who tried to flee were already fading under fresh falling ash. Houses on both sides leaned at strange angles. Many walls had cracked from the heat and pressure. Bright red and yellow frescoes that once decorated wealthy homes were now buried or scorched. The Grand Forum, the heart of public life, where people discussed politics, traded goods, and worshipped the gods, was a wasteland. Statues of emperors and deities lay toppled or half-buried. The Temple of Jupiter stood damaged, its columns like broken bones. Reconstructions show haunting details. Overturned market stalls with spilled wine amphorae frozen in time, a fallen bakery with loaves of bread still in the oven turned to charcoal, and abandoned jewelry scattered where panicked owners dropped them while running for their lives. The silence was the most terrifying part. No voices, just the occasional soft thud of more ash falling. Step inside one of the luxurious villas, and the horror becomes deeply personal. In the House of the Faun, one of Pompeii's largest and richest homes, the beautiful bronze statue of a dancing faun still stood in the courtyard, but now covered in gray dust. Beautiful mosaic floors depicting Alexander the Great in battle lay hidden under debris. In the dining room, remains of a last meal, figs, walnuts, and wine sat untouched on tables. Many homes told tragic stories. In one small house, visuals reconstruct a mother huddled over her children in a final embrace, trying to protect them from the deadly gas. In another, a man was found near the door, still holding the key to his home, as if he believed he could lock death outside. The famous Garden of the Fugitives showed plaster casts of people who had tried to escape but were caught by the final surge. Their bodies left hollow spaces in the ash that hardened around them like concrete. When archaeologists poured plaster into those voids centuries later, they revealed the exact positions of men, women, and children in their final moments, some shielding their faces, others reaching for loved ones. Every home had become a time capsule. Bread ovens, jewelry boxes, dice games, and love letters remained exactly where they were dropped. Looking toward the sea from Pompeii's walls, the view that once inspired poets was destroyed. The busy harbor, filled with trading ships from Egypt, Greece, and Spain, was now empty. Some ships had sunk under the falling pumice. Others had fled earlier, carrying the lucky few who escaped in time. The water itself was covered with floating ash and debris. Mount Vesuvius still loomed in the background, its top now missing, blown off by the eruption. Smoke continued to rise from its broken peak like an angry giant that had just awakened. Smaller tremors still shook the ground, sending fresh clouds of ash into the air. Nearby towns like Herculaneum had suffered even worse. Fates buried under superheated mud that preserved wooden structures, and even human brains in incredible detail. But Pompeii's story was different. It was buried in dry ash that allowed the city to be rediscovered almost perfectly preserved 1,700 years later. The day after Vesuvius, Pompeii wasn't just destroyed, it was perfectly preserved. That gray, silent wasteland would wait silently for centuries until 1748, when archaeologists began digging and uncovered a Roman city frozen in a single moment. Thanks to modern AI reconstruction technology, We can now see exactly how it looked the day after. The vibrant colors, the terrified final moments, the everyday life interrupted forever. This isn't just ancient history. Vesuvius is still an active volcano. Today, over 3 million people live in the danger zone around it. Scientists warn it could erupt again with similar power. The story of Pompeii is a powerful reminder of nature's unstoppable force and human fragility. One day you're enjoying life with your family, selling goods in the market, planning tomorrow's feast, and the next, everything is gone. What would you grab if you had only minutes to escape? What would the world find if it dug up your life tomorrow? If this AI reconstructed journey through the last day of Pompeii moved you, hit that like button, subscribe for more incredible historical recreations, and comment below. Would you have stayed to help others or run for the boats? Pompeii didn't die in vain. Its story still speaks loudly across 2,000 years. In the thick ash, heartbreaking personal moments were preserved forever. AI reconstructions let us walk through these frozen tragedies with new clarity. A young woman, perhaps a bride-to-be, was found wearing a stunning gold necklace, an emerald ring jewelry she probably grabbed in panic as she fled her bedroom. In another home, a small boy clutched a bronze figurine of his favorite god, as if it could protect him from the falling sky. The most famous casts come from the Garden of the Fugitives. 13 people who thought they could outrun the final pyroclastic surge. AI brings them back a father shielding his daughter, an elderly couple holding hands, a pregnant mother curled on the ground. Their bodies tell stories of pure terror mixed with love in the last seconds. These weren't just nameless victims. They were bakers, gladiators, priests, mothers, and merchants, living ordinary Roman lives. One man was found with a bag of coins trying to save his wealth even as death chased him. Another died beside his dog, loyal to the end. The real power of the AI reconstruction is showing how normal everything was right until the end. Walk into a thermopolium, fast food restaurant. The counter still displays jars of ancient snacks, olives, chickpeas, and wine. A half-eaten meal sits on the table. Fresh bread, turned to charcoal but perfectly shaped, waits in the oven exactly as the baker left it on August 24th. In wealthy villas, colorful frescoes of gods, gardens, and erotic scenes, Pompeii was famous for them. Peek through cracks in the ash. Mosaic floors with hunting scenes and mythological battles remain incredibly detailed under the debris. Public fountains still had water when the first ash fell, but by the next morning, they were buried. Graffiti on walls, political slogans, love notes, and insults survived as fresh as the day they were scratched. One famous line reads, "API, you're a fool." As if the argument happened yesterday. Close your eyes and imagine the sensory nightmare of August 25th. The air was heavy with sulfur, like rotten eggs mixed with burnt wood and wet cement. Every breath would burn your lungs. The temperature stayed hot from the volcanic gases, making the gray landscape feel like an oven. There was almost no sound, only the soft hiss of falling ash and occasional distant rumbles from Vesuvius. No birds, no insects. Even the sea was strangely quiet, covered in a floating layer of pumice that looked like dirty ice. AI visuals show faint sunlight struggling through dark clouds, giving everything an eerie yellowish-gray glow. Shadows were long and strange. The entire city looked like a black-and-white photograph of its former colorful self. Pompeii wasn't alone. Just 10 kilometers away, Herculaneum faced an even more violent end. While Pompeii was buried in dry ash and pumice, Herculaneum was hit by superheated mud and gas surges reaching over 500 degrees Celsius, 932 degrees Fahrenheit. The AI reconstruction shows wooden roofs and doors carbonized instantly, yet perfectly preserved. Human remains here are even more detailed. Some brains were turned to glass by the extreme heat. Smaller villages around the bay disappeared completely. Thousands more died trying to escape by sea or hiding in cellars. The Emperor Titus sent help, but it was too little, too late. The region that was once the playground of rich Romans became a valley of death. 2,000 years later, the day after Vesuvius, still teaches us powerful lessons. Modern scientists use AI and 3D scanning to study Pompeii like never before. They warn that Vesuvius is not dead, it's only sleeping. Over 700,000 people live in the immediate danger zone today. An eruption similar to 79 AD could happen again with almost no warning. The story of Pompeii reminds us how fragile civilization is. One beautiful summer day, you're shopping, laughing, planning festivals, and the next day your entire world can be erased. Yet there's hope, too. Because of the ash, we recovered an entire Roman city in incredible condition. Pompeii taught us about Roman food, fashion, religion, sex lives, and politics more than any history book ever could. This AI reconstruction isn't just cool visuals, it's a time machine that makes the past feel immediate and real. For nearly 1,700 years, Pompeii slept under its gray tomb, forgotten by most of the world. Then in 1748, workers digging for a new palace stumbled upon something extraordinary. As they removed layers of hardened ash, perfectly preserved walls, colorful paintings, and everyday objects began to emerge. It wasn't just ruins, it was an entire Roman city frozen exactly as it looked on the morning of August 25, 79 AD. Archaeologists were stunned. They found loaves of bread still in ovens, coins scattered on tables, and dogs still chained to their posts. The famous plaster casts created by pouring liquid plaster into hollow spaces left by decomposed bodies revealed the exact, final poses of the victims. AI reconstruction today takes these discoveries even further, colorizing the faded frescoes, rebuilding collapsed roofs, and showing us the city in full vibrant life. Right before it went silent, the rediscovery shocked Europe. People realized they were looking at real Romans, not statues or myths, but actual humans who laughed, loved, argued, and died in one terrible day. Today's AI reconstruction does something magical. It turns dry archaeological data into living, breathing scenes. Using laser scans, ground-penetrating radar, and thousands of photos, AI artists rebuild the exact colors of walls that faded centuries ago. They show us sunlight streaming through atriums, fountains splashing again, and markets full of noise and color, then switch to the devastating morning after, with everything buried in gray. You can now walk through virtual Pompeii in 4K, see the Temple of Apollo glowing at sunrise on August 24th, then see the same temple half-collapsed, under tons of pumice the next day. Watch digital citizens running through streets as the pyroclastic cloud approaches. This isn't Hollywood fiction, it's based on real evidence. Food remains, clothing fragments, even the height of ash layers. The technology lets us stand on the same street corner where someone stood 2,000 years ago and feel the weight of that single tragic day. As we look at these haunting AI images of Pompeii the day after, one question echoes louder than ever. Could it happen again? Vesuvius is still very much alive. It has erupted many times since 79 AD. Scientists say another major eruption is overdue. Today, more than 3 million people live around the volcano in modern cities, built right on top of ancient ash. The story of Pompeii is not just ancient history, it's a warning. In our world of smartphones and skyscrapers, nature can still wipe everything away in hours. One loud explosion, one black cloud, and our busy lives could be frozen forever like those Roman families. Yet Pompeii also gives us hope, because it was preserved so perfectly. We learned more about the Romans than they could have ever imagined. Their art, their food, their daily struggles, and their last moments now teach millions of people every year. So next time you see those powerful AI reconstructions, the silent gray streets, the desperate figures in the ash, the colorful world that vanished overnight, remember this. Life is precious. Tomorrow is never promised. What will future generations find when they dig up your city?